process associated with our new budget system, what we're doing today. Ordinarily, we wouldn't start with public budget information until after, until the first part of October. But what we're doing throughout the year is priority setting. So this is a part of that process. It's going to take a little while to get through it. And what we said when we went to the retreat in the spring of this year is that people could come and make other proposals during study sessions throughout the year. Well, no one has until we're getting right up to the end of it, and then there was a number of them that came through, and I want to share those with you to see whether you want to make any changes to the priority. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about, just by introduction, the budget decision process and the new budget system, and then we'll update the priority list after that. So, as I said, the budget decision process is basically setting priorities, and then we just let the amount of money that's available drive the decisions. So you create a list, and then you can spend down as far as you got money to be able to do that. These are the other steps that are coming next week, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. First part of October, we'll have the budget overview, and then we'll do the preliminary budget. We'll have a public hearing, and then final budget in December. So here's some stressors. Here's some things that, just by way of context, here's some things that are happening that are creating uncertainty or just creating less money than what we have in income. So we have what may or may not be an increase in their jail bill. There's some uncertainty about that. We have an increase in our fire service fees. What happened several years ago, or 3 years ago, is that the fire district got a levy lift approved. That increased, and our bill is based on what is collected in their taxing part of their jurisdiction. So the taxes went up there, so our fees were obliged to go up here. And we worked into that incrementally, $50,000 increases per year. This is your third year of that installment, because it was better than having it all go up to $550,000 in the first year. We're negotiating labor contracts right now, and we're trying to hold the line as much as we can, but that's going to be difficult. There are inflationary costs. The power bill is going to go up. It costs more money to do all kinds of things because it's natural inflation. Another stressor is the new budget system. And finally, and the big one, is the reduction in revenues that we're seeing as a result of the mill closure. So it's our estimate that we're going to see around $21,000 less in tax revenues in 2016 compared to 2015. And we were hoping we wouldn't get to that point when we last talked about the budget in April and in May, but that's where we are. So the ongoing commitments are pretty challenging. One time is probably a little bit more flexible because you have to make a judgment about what you've got in reserves, what you can spend, what you want to keep, that sort of thing. But very, very difficult to deal with the additional with new programmatic costs, ongoing costs. So let's look at the new budget system, and I'm going to go through this a little more quickly than I did the first time because this isn't the first time you've seen this. Used to be that the staff would generate ideas, work out the details in detail on every single request, take that to the finance committee, which was the finance director, finance commissioner, finance director, and myself, and then we'd make recommendations onto the city commission. The city commission approves the budget. One of the things that would happen is all the unspent dollars would be returned to the general fund, and all of the revenue would be accounted for generally. So that means if a program made money, just go into the pot. It wouldn't be associated with that program, except as an accounting measure that you needed to do it to satisfy the needs of the state auditor. You had to show them they didn't spend, you didn't make more money in that department than you spent. But there's really no link between the program and the money. Problems, staff-driven. I think the way it works, lack of transparency. You really couldn't see what happened in the budget process. Even a lack of transparency for us, because department heads would make their request and then they would kind of disappear into the black hole, and then and the finance committee would come out of the dark and say, "This is our decisions. Let's move on." No one knew what happened, or he explained it, but they didn't really see it, so they didn't understand it as well. I think it's difficult to manage effectively because it's overly complex. I believe in simplifying things as much as you can, and I think that the existing system is kind of complicated. Problem is also you bring stuff in, commissioners see it at the last minute, not much chance to deliberate, not much chance to think about the decisions that you've got. Because of the complexity, there's also limited accountability. Because you can't just say, well, you overspent your budget. Well, things got out of hand because of all this complexity. You need something simpler. And there's all kinds of budget games that, use or lose it padding. I don't think you can get rid of learning. I don't think you can get rid of that completely. But I also think that when you're playing budget games, you're not figuring out, you're not using your creativity to the maximum extent. So you need a different system. So the solution, first of all, is to shift control to the city commission, which we started doing early in this year. When the first step that we did was to ask the city commission what they thought, where they thought we ought to be putting our resources, and also included the public and the department heads in that discussion as well. So we had everybody starting the process. And right now, we're checking back with the commissioners with updated costs, because those weren't as well thought out. Some of them, a lot of them, as they are now. So now we have better costs, and so now you can see what those costs were. And also, we're going to create this priority order system instead of picking and choosing, well, let's do this, let's do that. Well, let's just prioritize it. And then you draw the line, and then it makes a decision on its own based on what you have. Simplification. The goal here is to have somebody come in and pick up this accounting sheet for a program that says this is the revenues for the program, these are the expenses for the program, and have a much better chance of seeing what's going on. Right now, departments only manage expenditures. Well, it puts them in the game for income too, and I think that matches up with people's real world. Because people in their own lives have to manage both income and expenses. And then you build additional accountability through the simplicity that it creates. Because that sheet, I can say to a department head, you can't overspend your budget. The rest of it's up to you. You're accountable for managing that. This is a summary of what I just talked about generally. And I think, but I want to emphasize this one, this strategic orientation. One of the problems with the existing system is you tend to think a year at a time. What we're providing for here is for people to, if they don't spend dollars, they get to keep them. And so they can say, gosh, over the next 2 years, I can solve this problem, but I can solve it without going back into the general fund and getting an appropriation. At any rate, it allows you to, it encourages you to think ahead, but rather than just a year at a time. So, there's some challenges with the change. Because we're being more transparent, at least to ourselves internally, we haven't done much public with it yet, because we're being more transparent, it's kind of frustrating, because people are accustomed to having the decisions handed to them. Am I going to do it or am I not? Well, now we've opened it up and we said, well, we haven't made the decision yet. And we haven't in prior years either. So it's been kind of frustrating getting people over the loop. it is a work in progress. It's not only have we not made we're still making up details as we go, and we have to, because there are things that we just weren't able to anticipate. And we're establishing process, creating rules. Other issues, communications. Boy, when you're doing something new, there's lots of fear. I'm speaking internally in the organization. So people are concerned. So there's lots of rumors and things like that we can't address too firm, really, because if you say, we don't have answers, well, then they assume the worst. And it's not going to be the worst. It's going to be okay. We've got to get through it. So, okay, so here's our new process. It's already working this year. We're about to produce our first reports. Kathy's going to do that, actually in Excel, because we haven't gotten a new system up and running to where it'll do it. It will be folded into the new financial software, and we're writing new policies as we go. Anyway, gets back to the same goals. And these are some steps that we've used to go through this. And one of the challenges that we've had, if I just jump down here, is we're assigning non-program revenues to programs based on the priorities of the city. Non-program revenues, and I'm about to change the name of that because it's not very intuitive. Those are general revenues. So those are things that are yet. And this is your decision at the end of the day, is they're going to keep program revenue. So if they're making money in a program and there's a cash flow coming in, that doesn't get cycled through the pot anymore. It stays right in the program. And but the decision then is, what are you going to do with revenues that aren't assigned to a program, to the general revenues, and these are generally taxes. So the allocation is based on the taxes that are available. So we're rearranging our finances in order to be able to make that work. This is what it looks like. This actually looks a lot like the system that we use now. It's only out of Oregon. And you can see this is all the expenses. This is all we see today. The real interesting thing on this comes on the second page. And this is the revenue associated with the department. This happens to be a planning department, but all programs, just about all programs, have money. And this has a couple of interesting additional lines. And it says planning's beginning balance. So that's the money that was left over from the year before. And then it has it has general revenue, which is the money that comes from taxes, most of it. So it's non-program revenue. They call it, but I think we're going to change our name to, is general revenue. We've actually had a success story already. Greg Clark, bless his heart, said, well, let's see what we can do with the organization. So he did a reorganization. He created some rover positions, which are positions that are kind of, from an accounting standpoint, they're assigned to a department, but they really aren't. They get to go wherever they decide to send them, as long as they don't spend more money in a particular program than what they have. And so we have these rover positions. It's also created another tier of employees that are not operator positions, so you can pay them less. As it happens, we've got people retiring right now, so we've been able, because of that, those additional salaries being less than we've had paying operators, we've been able to save some money and get more work. I think probably get more work done. So as Greg's doing this, Craig Gregory's the new superintendent of Public Works crews, and all over this. And I think it's an awesome experience, and it's the kind of thing that if we could see similar savings in other areas, we should. Darren's trying to do things with the community service worker, taking on duties that his sworn officers don't have to do. It's just it's this kind of thing that really is that show a really good promise in this program. Okay, so now here's the work, which is the priority list. I'll review. Priority list determines funded projects. We established it early this year. We could have updated it based on the arbitrary rule. We said that you bring it back during the study session. And before the next step in the budget process, this is the last one. So this is the one that we're bringing to you for a revisiting of this thing. And keep in mind that even now, it's a work in progress until it's done. Because you still have public hearing. You still have public input. You have other, you may have other things going on. But keep in mind also that in terms of allocating additional resources, there aren't any, or new resources, there aren't any. So it's going to be pretty tight. We set it out originally on April 3rd, and then we had Mike had a health problem and was unable to be there for the retreat. But then he really studied diligently what we had done at that. Came back, and on May 11th, after we had everybody back together for the next study session, which is where we're supposed to deal with it, we made a few changes, and we got a good list for the year that everybody had agreed to. At that point, we were adding. We talked about during the retreat what if we have to cut, and it just didn't make any sense to decide what you're going to cut in April, and not recognizing that you're doing it for the next year. So everything was based on enhancements. There was 23 proposed items, and I actually constrained the list. We ended up with 2 lists, ongoing and one time, which is typical. We differentiate those two things. Ongoing is expenditure that you spend from one year to the next, and one time just happens in one time. It's important to allocate the money that way because you have one-time income that is distinct from ongoing income. So you don't want to use ongoing for one-time income for ongoing, or you find yourself without the money the next year or two. So we ended up with 16 items, and split evenly between the two. The final list came out. Actually, on this 23 items, what I did is told everybody that you could only present 2 things. So between all of the folks that were presented from staff, plus what we got from the commissioners and what we got from the public, that's what kept this list at only 23 instead of maybe 30 or 35. The recession has been hard on us. There's a lot of legitimate demand out there for stuff and for enhancements because we're expected to do more, regardless of the lack of revenue. So this is where we started with. I want to go back a little bit and talk about a few of the other things that are going on right now, again, for context, before we get into the list. This is a list of projects that don't need any help from us, but they'll be on the budget. So I wanted to have them available for you on the list so you can see them and see these are things that we're planning to do so long as the money comes in, and probably will in almost every case. This is important because these are projects that are ongoing, or at least 2 of them are. Lake Boulevard, Pioneer Way, and the SR3 Park and Ride, both of them need additional money that we didn't account for in this year, but they'll be finished in the next year, and they're going to cost more money than we thought. And then we've got this Franklin Street downtown project that we've been putting off because we don't have the money for it. And it's up for a decision again. I don't know where you get, $93,000 to do this project. The downside is if we don't do it eventually, we've spent money on it, and the state's probably going to want us to pay it back. So we can't seem to finish it. Okay, so here's the original ongoing request. This is what we came out of our meeting in April, and then in the meeting in May, we did this. Notice that we've lowered the amount of money that was for building, derelict building abatements, and used $7,500 of the money to do the restroom project. Again, these are in the priority order that you established in the retreat. So you have money, you start here and you work your way down until you run out of money wherever that lands. So here is the revised list, which is kind of peculiar. And the reason it's longer is because the police actually broke up their request into 3 items instead of 2. Otherwise, they're the same. The question is, do you want to rearrange any of the ongoing request items? I'll come back to it. These are requests that came in in the last couple weeks that there's no one that I haven't let go through, basically, because there isn't even any money to do these without pulling money from reserves. So if there's anything that you see here, and I'm going to suggest that there's something on this list that you'd like to see pulled from it, and you think it can land high on this list, then we can talk about that. So I'll let you chew on that for a second until we go and we'll look at one-time requests, and then we'll come back to that list and see where you are. This is I'm doing it the same way. This is the original list. I think we haven't got our one-time revenues in yet. We don't know where we are with that for sure. But I think we're going to be in better shape, as I said before, than we are with ongoing. This is the original list. And then we made a few changes to it. At the signal box up there, on Railroad Avenue and was it 3rd, 4th Street. When we went through the downtown plan, it realized that we were going another direction that probably didn't need a traffic light at that intersection. So the idea was just to pull it. If it broke, then we just put up stop signs and take it down. So that request kind of went away. It was also, this item was actually pulled from the bottom of the list and put up higher because we were afraid of structural damage due to the weather getting into the structure of the library building. So that became an important thing to do. So this is we've actually updated the numbers on this now, and with things that are actually probably real, or much more better than we had before. Some are the same, some are not, some are lower, some are higher. And then I've added 4 more things down here that I thought probably you may want to consider moving into the priority list. Notice right now there's no number here, but if you wanted to move them in, it might make sense. I did this for several reasons. Going through the downtown visioning process, there was an interest in doing some striping on Railroad Avenue, and so I think that the request I got from that was for about $2,000 to be able to do that striping, so that you could start to at least see what it looked like. The lanes down to 2, use the parking, that sort of thing. As long as we don't try to tear up anything that's built in place, it's fairly inexpensive. As soon as you start tearing into the street and actually changing curbs and stuff like that, then this goes from $2,000, you can just multiply that by 100 or more. This is a project that I think that was missed early. There was a position that was funded for 2 years really didn't ever get started until the second year. And it was a project that we started trying to get on top of our records. It's now plugged in as a one-time to keep it going for another year. It's important, but at some point it's probably going to have to continue. But there isn't any money in the ongoing. Public Works has given us, as usual, a list of road projects that are more than what we're going to generate in real estate excise tax. We had that bumping up for a while, and the real estate sales activity started slowing down a little bit again for whatever reason. So we don't have as much there as we thought. So in order to be able to do the set of projects that they want, it's going to cost another $20,000. And this one I'm struggling with. I put it on there because of the safety issue. It's becoming it's probably become a trip hazard in the near future. The carpet's starting to bubble up in some parts of the building, and ought to be replaced. But those are your calls. So here are some one-time requests that I didn't bring in to put on the list, but I wanted to share them with you in case you thought that they should be. This is a tarp system for the dump truck, which puts the tarp over the top of the dump truck automatically rather than having a driver climb up onto the truck and do it manually. And it's a safety thing because it's fall off the truck. There is a request for safety barrier on the kiosk up here at the front, which is very similar to the one that they have in the police department. Now, there's no barrier there. People come in and cough, and our clerks get sick, that sort of thing. So, the library, we did get some painting done in the library. It was really on the front of the library. This is to paint the rest of the library. And then if you go around the exterior of the building and look up at the cornice up there, you'll see that it's starting to fail. So it needs to be maintained or we're going to lose it. And it's kind of expensive. It's all high work. You've got to build up staging or one of those things that, one of those little walker things that a lift. Anyway, so let me go back to the, let's look at this. Is there anything on that list? Maybe I should give you details. We've had a yard close that has taken our waste asphalt. The road crew think it's going to cost more. So they're saying we need more money to be able to manage the change. They already have a summer worker. They want to double up on the amount of summer worker time that they have on the street crews. Sidewalk supplies is just additional sidewalk work that we're doing just to supplement that. It's an inflationary cost. It's an inflationary cost for the striping contract. Every year we have a striping company that comes in. It's running more than what the line item says or will. Utility services at the library, we pay for their utilities, so that's going to cost more. The library is very consistent that we do a better job of cleaning the carpets at the library. At any rate, this one here, it's been costing, we have a contract with Mason 5 on the fire station, and that's been costing more money. That has some merit. The way that set of programs finished up the year, they were really close to marginal for the maintenance programs. So something needs to change there. Greg wants to do GIS mapping. I want him to do GIS mapping. I think that there's enormous efficiency savings associated with that system. The last one, I didn't want to leave this off, is jail expense. We don't know where it's going to land. We're trying to work with the sheriff and challenge him to get our, to probably change the way we do it, rather than having charges per head, whoever shows up. What we would, I think the solution is to just rent a certain number of beds. That's what they want us to do with a predictable amount. So you've got those in that bundle there, the big sheets I gave you. So my question for you is, do you want to take anything from here, and put it into here?
Well, I can't read these. I mean,
So look, the big ones, Gary.
Oh,
You got a question, Greg?
Well, I just wanted to indicate, if you go back one slide to that one there, the asphalt concrete disposal, the overall anticipated cost for disposal for all projects, water projects, sewer projects, street projects, is that dollar amount. My plan is, because obviously I don't think we're going to find the money here today for that, is I'll just make each individual project pay for its own asphalt disposal, so it'll get put in the right place anyway. So you probably could cross that one off. And then number 8, the GIS mapping. My plan there was that each utility that had mapping of their infrastructure would pay for it out of that utility. I'm not sure how that works with Kathy's IDC plan, where you pay for things for 2 years and then it moves into the IDC. But I do believe that $35,000 as well is really unique to the utility that is doing the mapping, similar to what we're doing this year with storm. So that one probably also could get crossed off.
I think it depends on how fast you want to do it.
Exactly.
If you want to do all of them at once, it's coming through the IDC. If you do them one utility at a time, maybe not.
So,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. Questions?
well, it's, everything should be done, but again, it's just like everything, if you have a roof leak, and that's more important than possibly painting the building. And again, this is, I think we're probably thinking this is our worst budgeting year that we're gonna go through. Hopefully, by next year, things will be better. And that, so, I don't know what the end budget amount is, or what we can take off or put back on. You said you guessed $21,000 shortfall. Well, that should take off one of these or two of these things off the list, and that's that. So,
Well,
I'm on, so I don't.
we may not get to any of it. That's our reality.
Yeah.
To the extent that you've got these other projects that they're showing previously, if you want to continue working on the projects, those are going to trump at least one-time dollars from being able to be spent. So that's one of the reasons we're not sure where we're landing with one-time revenue. We've got to do that math. So,
Well, you got fixed falling soffits in the library. I think that's pretty important. If you got something falling in somebody's head, you pretty much got to do that. But looks like that's a $10,000 expense.
well, those are one-time.
Yeah.
We're on ongoing now.
I know. Just using this as an example.
Okay.
On the number 4 there, Dave, on the abatements,
Yeah.
have we figured out any kind of a cost benefit on that? I mean, what have we actually received back from that program? Have we sold anything to replenish our expense at all?
Yeah.
But what's the dollar amount we've spent? What is our 3rd year of it, or 2nd year?
Second.
So we're into it for almost $100,000. How much have we made back?
Well, we're not far enough into it to really evaluate that clearly, but the idea was that eventually it would be a self-funded endeavor. We did find out there's some value in our Parkview Manor property that might accelerate the sale of that property. We haven't even endeavored to sell it yet, but that property may be of more value than we initially thought. So there's a lot of unknowns there right now, Mike.
We got a little money out of the insurance company on the burnout, was across from the library on Alter
I mean,
Street.
I like the program, I was a big supporter of it, but I just wonder ongoing in this budget scenario, whether, you know, that might just drop down the list if there isn't a payback to keep investing into it right now.
Last year, which is something I intended to say and I didn't, that's something you should know. Last year, we didn't put it in as a one-time. We put it in as an ongoing expense. And so, I guess it's my call to have them resubmit, but arguably, it's in there as a one-time. So if you pull it, it does free up money, but probably in the range of 40,000 that would otherwise be available. But I don't know whether you want to do that. And I left it in, not so much because, I left it in because I knew you were passionate about it, and it was something you really wanted to do.
It improves the neighborhoods, it gives a chance for some of these vacated houses to be torn down. The problem is right now, the resale market, even on lots, I mean, the price is just so low that it's really, you know, that I would see this program working quite well in the market when it starts getting better. But I think everything's on the chopping board, I suppose. If you had to pull that for a one-year period, knowing that your intent was to come back to it, I mean, I think you have to do the necessities, you know, and it may be something that we, you know, along with other things. Darren.
I can give a quick update on ours. If we need, because of the budget, revenue and resources to hold item number 2, I can find the money elsewhere somewhere, out in public or private, and even 3. But with number 1, I just got notified, I told you, Dave, of a pending retirement in November. So that was bringing detectives back. So if this guy retires in November, now I'm down 1 again, and we're still paying for detectives to be out. So that kind of gives a little bit of perspective to that one. Like I said, the other 2 we can work with, and that one gets a little more perspective as people start leaving.
You want to move on, or you, okay. So, no changes so far.
I guess I'd like to say something about number 4. Or is that,
We just have to figure out the process. for that.
oh, okay.
And I'm not against that.
Oh, wait,
We were
wait.
signed up to speak, and so why don't you want to...
Oh, I was just going to say one word.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead and say it, and then I'll forget that you said it. Go ahead.
As a citizen, I think one of the most important things in the abatements is the safety of our citizens and our kids. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And so I just think that if Mike and Steve could keep that going, that's really important. You know, when you talk about the safety.
I
Too many
agree.
words.
It'd be nice if we could. Nothing's pulled, nothing, we're just talking, I guess, on
All right.
possibles, I suppose.
Okay, so this is, so let's move ahead to the on one time, because you had some interest in that here. Okay, so here's the ongoing, here's what we ended up with, we got all the numbers in and did the changes that we needed to. So you knew what the actual costs were, what the program things were. What do we got? And then here's some things, these things I thought you would be interested in prioritizing. These are things that I wasn't sure that you would, but so if you have something you'd like to move from this list and move into this one, let me know.
On number 1 there, am I reading that right? We went from 6,000 to 56,000 is the new request?
Yeah, what happened is Greg had an idea and it didn't work.
Darn.
Say thank you to Greg. I mean, he was using his creativity, which is what we want. But, you know, so you try stuff and it just didn't work.
Those fans need the engines and transmissions and tires.
Flintstone style.
He thought he was gonna be able to, he thought he was actually gonna be able to save enough on maintenance associated with buying a new rig that it would pay for itself, but it just didn't work out because you can't save it. You've got to be putting money into the EM&R fund when you have it.
You couldn't talk the guys into pedaling.
So can we reduce that to 1?
Whatever you want to do. I mean, we do need 2 vans, but one has actually been salvaged. It actually died. We can survive with one. And hopefully next year, go for the second.
Sam's van, is that the one?
Sam's van's dead.
It's been in death roast.
It's in the junkyard.
Yeah.
Blew the motor.
And on the street overlays, didn't we already kind of spend ahead on that and use on Turner last year? So we're already a year behind on that.
Yeah.
So that 35,000 is already spent this year.
No. 35 is left over from last year.
It is left over.
Isn't that what we used for H and the other street stuff?
No, not that. That was already programmed in as REIT money.
Okay.
No, I believe these numbers are correct. We need to do all the ones on the list. Now, you can always shorten the list. But we needed about 55,000 all-inclusive, of which 35 would be REIT money. And the balance we need for one-time money is 20,111. But we have quite a few streets on the list, more than we typically do. I had Craig at the time prepare a longer list because I was anticipating possibly transportation benefit district money that could go in this endeavor as well. But that may be delayed for a while here to know when the money starts rolling in and that. So I wouldn't anticipate any TBD money. So if we wanted to do all of the streets on the list, we need an additional 20,111. That's the second to last one there.
Yes, Tracy.
Where's the carpet that needs to be replaced at the Civic Center? Is it like all of these carpets, or is it upstairs?
It's in police.
And the court.
And the court. And the court.
So there are areas that have a lot of traffic.
They're lifting up, they're just gone.
Yeah, they try to glue them back down, you know, pushing glue in there, and the carpet itself is delaminated, so it's coming apart now. So, yeah, I moved it there because it seemed to be a safety. I said that, sorry. But I don't know where it lands on the priority list.
Does the filing clerk need to be a full-time position? I mean, is it all or nothing?
It's already split between two departments. I mean, you can keep the program going, that would be the important thing. I don't know whether you keep the same employee.
And the program is what? What is that person doing?
It's just getting records organized in the Community Development Public Works so that we can digitize them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can't really see any changes I go for right now.
Okay?
I mean,
We're not talking about the 4 items on this.
I'm talking about, just asking you whether you want to move anything else out of here over to here.
How did the handheld devices get reduced?
Using carryover dollars for financing and financing. Also, Kathy did some some handhelds, and some laptops, and laptops were quite a bit cheaper, so she was able to reduce some cost that way too. But you gotta have them, otherwise if you don't, then you can't read your utility meters.
So Dave, just for clarification, you're suggesting everything on this slide is approved? to move
Well,
forward?
no, everything on here is on the priority list. And then what we do is we start at the top and we spend down as much money as we got. We need at least $141,000 to get down to here.
Right.
Over and above what we're using up on public works projects. So what I'm suggesting is that, what I'm asking, if we're done with these, then what I'm asking is, do you want to move any of these onto the list? And if so, where?
I changed my mind. Street overlays in place of the soffits.
You want to move the soffits down, or you want to put them above?
Move them down and move the streets up. I know it doesn't match up, but it's getting closer.
Okay, I also want the $2,000 for the temporary street transformation moved up. And it can be at the bottom of the top list.
Okay, so this would be number 9, or whatever, this would be after number 8. Okay. This one would be that would be number 7.
Yeah.
missing them, sorry. Okay, are you following that, Leslie Ann, or is everybody else okay with those changes?
The reason I would just like to explain that is I feel like we have invested money, our citizens have invested time and energy into that, and if that's the only thing that we can do this year as part of our visioning process, I think it's important to do that for a little bit of money.
And this isn't about we're doing it or not. This isn't about that. This is just where it goes on the priority list. Now, we may, maybe you'll put off that do it or not until we come back with how much money we have.
Yeah.
And say, well,
This is
maybe that
true.
was a higher priority. But the idea is that we prioritize rather than decide what's in or out. The fact that they're on the list, 1 through 8 or 7 or whatever it is up there, doesn't mean anything except for it's a higher priority.
Okay, I just want it to be number 9 then.
And right now, these are not on the priority list at all. Those are off the list. So the next time you see this, these will be gone, unless you put them on the list.
I'd like to move streets up to even number 6. Ahead of the scanner and the soffits.
So I think we got this, and this, all but the filing clerk.
Okay?
So is part of what the filing clerk doing is also scanning all the documents to be
Papers?
so is that part of that? Or will we be hiring someone to scan later?
But these guys answer, and they've got a plan.
The filing clerk we have right now working part-time for Steve, part-time for me, for a full FTE together. And the lady we have in is doing a huge effort in organizing our files so we can find them should we get records requests. Mary and Susan, the employee, they've really drilled down and found the best way to organize this stuff. So we're really in motion moving forward on this, but understanding the money is tight, but it's a very worthy program. We have so many records that Steve and I have that they're going through and figuring out what. The end of this, once we get them organized, will be to scan them both on the scanner we have in our copy machine, which we can scan for free. It'll take up to tabloid-sized paper. But this large format scanner, for a lot of the drawings, Steve and I have, plan sheets that are 24 by 36 or larger. You can't scan those unless you have a scanner. To send them out to have them scanned is very expensive, and in the long term, we need a scanner because we need to do this as projects are submitted and completed. So that's kind of the story.
So that's where you're going with it eventually.
That's where we're going with it eventually, like I say. And so if this doesn't meet the cut, then, that position would be eliminated next year.
There's also a need to have software to manage the records that we're digitizing. I don't know where that stands in this process.
We're doing a lot of different things, trying to get the records in order. One of them is to get a group together to select software, and with Tyler, they also have a module that we're kind of looking at and seeing what else is compatible with Tyler. And doing the cleanup of the paper records. And as you know, the position has been part-time records and then part-time purchasing coordinator because we had a person leave. So it's been a challenge to get a lot of the work done. So we're looking at.
So this is the last opportunity if somebody wants to move that one into the priority list. I mean,
Well, last opportunity from my perspective. If somebody else wants to take it on, but I'm not bringing it back unless you want to move it.
well, a lot of it just has to do with how much money, I guess, so, it doesn't matter how long that list is. I suppose we should probably put that on the bottom of the upper list. I mean,
Okay.
at least then, because it sounds like it's definitely, under normal circumstances, it's a bookkeeping thing that we need to continue to do because of the public information requests that we get. And, if somehow budget information comes in better, maybe we ought to just put it to the bottom of that list. So at least it's not forgotten, so.
I like that. The reason that we're doing this is because we're, have all these paper records, and we have all these record requests, and just, it's really important, it's vital that we get our record searches perfect. And it's much better to do that if you use digital technology than if you're trying to do it with paper.
So I'd recommend putting it on the bottom of the list.
Okay, all right.
All right, is there any other discussion or changes?
Did you want?
So number 5, we keep free, that's not even on there right now. So there's one slot that's even open
Oh,
already
yeah.
on top 8.
Yeah. I left it on there because
Yeah.
it was on there, but I just gave you the
So
amount.
do you need us to rank those, or we're just gonna shove them all up there and?
Did we get I thought we got a ranking, didn't we, last
Well,
Dan?
because of the administrative car being gone,
Yeah.
so the streets overlay would be 5, right? And the scanner, was that removed? It's not.
It wasn't removed, this was just bumped ahead of it.
Okay, so the streets overlay would be 5, the scanner would be 6, the soffits of the library would be 7, and so the temporary streets would be 8, and the filing clerk would be 9. Because
Okay.
we've lost number 5. Removed number 5. Does that make sense?
Yep, okay. Okay, let's go back to ongoing. Here is where we started. Is there anything you want to move from here back to the ongoing list?
It sounds like number 7 is kind of imminent, from what you're saying, that's getting kind of, it's falling behind.
It's kind of scary because we're, like I say, that maintenance budget finished like with only about $1,500 to good and coming out of 2014. So, and this is an extraordinary, this deal we're doing with the fire station is extraordinary.
So I make a motion or a suggestion, we move number 7 on the ongoing requests not included to be number, well, how did the golf range still get in there? I mean, we still got the golf driving range? That was Steve's idea.
That was the decision you all made.
You made to put it on a list?
Yeah. It was kind of peculiar because you funded the ongoing, but you didn't fund the building of it.
Well, I didn't say we scratched that. My goodness.
It was a long day.
I should have caught it.
I mean, I said good ideas. I mean, I like that whole area up there, but I would probably replace that with the operating cost of the fire station.
Okay, you got that.
Well, my question is number one on this no longer, is that correct? Is the asphalt just removed?
You can cross it off.
Okay.
Well, all these are removed, Leslie Ann, unless.
Yeah, these are
Stay moving.
That's all.
Nodding.
So I guess I'm open to remove the golf range this year, number 9, and replace it with the number 7 on the not included list.
I'm agree.
Is that okay? All right, so there's one there.
The golf range will be a future project.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I have a question about the striping, additional cost for striping. Is that different than the temporary street transformation?
Yes, that's just the normal striping that we do annually, and there's an expectation that the cost is going to be higher. You want to talk about that, Greg?
Just in short, our budgets have been held flat. The budget we have in there is about $10,000. Strike Right has been put it out for bid, and they've been the successful bidder, but it's constantly costing us, it's gonna be over $13,000 next year probably. So this would just catch us up to just making ends meet. Otherwise, we have to steal money from another line item in order to pay for striping. It's just, the cost is more than.
On the other hand, your road budget finished up in the black this year pretty good, so, I mean,
Well, and we'll get the new road next year, so the striping on that would be included, wouldn't it?
Oh, on Lake Boulevard, yes, but that's just on the street. This is to do the whole, this is to do all the fog lines, all the center lines, everything through the entire city. Our crews paint the stop bars and the parking ticks and some of the other minor striping. But this is striping the whole town, basically.
Didn't we buy a striping machine now?
We do, that's just for minor, little maintenance-related type striping. It's not to do the whole town. These guys come in and they do the whole town in one day.
you get a lot of line item requests. I'm running over in this line item, and I'm really trying to move us to a more strategic look at this level, rather than line item requests. I want to see, these are the things we can't do. But that's the way we've always done it. So, the reason I was worried about this, about the fire station, is because that particular program is pretty marginal right now.
Very much.
That doesn't mean they can't find efficiencies. And I know that program manager that we have for that, or supervisor, is really good at being creative. And I think he's about running out of ideas, though, because we've been pretty unkind to that program over the years. So, anyhow, other things you want to move?
Well, the jail, I mean, you gotta,
We have to.
And we don't know what that is. Whatever it is,
it's gotta be a priority.
what I'm gonna try to do is minimize the impact, but I don't know what it's gonna be. It's just uncertain. I mean, Shelby, we asked her, okay, with the budget request, and she's the one that's managing that, and she didn't even know what to ask for because of the uncertainty associated with the jail. We probably will end up with something like what we've been spending before, and we'll end up either running over budget, or we'll end up not having as many beds over there, depending on how soon we're able to get into that contract.
So your recommendation is just leave that?
I think you'll leave it, till we get closer to, I don't know what to ask for.
Yeah, but it's gonna trump a number of these things.
It is, it
Once you
will.
get it. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's gotta go to the top of the list practically.
Well, we may not even know what we got until next year. So it's just, you know, this is early in the process. We may know before we're done, but when it does, then you're right, it goes to the top of the list. Okay,
I'm okay with what we have right there.
all right. You mean here,
Yep.
okay.
We canceled golf frames and we put in the,
And the fire station maintenance, yeah, okay.